Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Crash Cinnamon. It's your host McKenna. Happy New Year. The year has started with so many things already. However, I'm positive this year will pan out to be okay. No matter how that word turns out to be, I believe I'll be okay, and I just want to focus on that. As you've seen from the title, today we're talking about domestic violence, and one of my favorite singers is called Harris Riley. He sang a song about domestic violence, and there's a tagline he uses. It says, "There's nothing domestic about domestic violence," and that is very true. And I've always struggled with the terminology of it, domestic violence, because what is domestic about violence? Let's think about it. And you've seen on our social media pages, I've been posting about the definition of domestic violence, especially in the UK. In 2012, it changed to incorporate 16 and 17-year-olds, and I know that could be shocking to some of you, but yeah, 16 and 17-year-olds, both women and men, are facing domestic violence. And I saw that firsthand. I used to be a careers advisor, and a lot of the kids on my caseload who are going through domestic violence, they were being, beaten up. Others were being controlled, who they can speak to, what phone they can even buy, which college they can apply to or not apply to, if they can even apply for a job in the city center, how long it will be, because the partner, boyfriend, girlfriend doesn't want them to be far away from them and to be available. It's so crazy how at 16 and 17 they're already controlling. However, if you think about it, if you look at the backgrounds of some of these young people, you can already see a pattern is forming, either from their background in the sense of how they were raised, or there are things they have started, philosophies they've started picking up either from books or movies or films, or even ideologies from their peers. I know some group of boys I spoke to when they were 19, and they were saying, if you don't hold down your woman, they'll never respect you. And this is in England. We're not even talking like 100 years ago. This was probably 15 years ago now, and the mentality is still the same. If you look at the definition of domestic violence, it says an incident or repetitive incident, where you're coerced, you're threatened, you experience violence. And sometimes we forget that domestic violence, because I will use that terminology though I don't like it, it doesn't have to be repetitive. It can be one incident. It can be one incident where you're smacked across the face, or you're kicked, or that in itself counts as domestic violence. And I think there's a preconception that you have to go through the repetitive behavior for long so for it to count as domestic violence, and that's not true. The sad part, actually, and which is the second leg of this conversation, is that since the breakout of coronavirus, WHO has actually said and referred domestic violence as the shadow pandemic, because the cases flew high. They grew day by day, and it's just not in England, it was across the globe. And that was because people were being asked to quarantine, self-isolate. There are those who are shielding, and they had to do this with the people who actually were abusing them or being violent to them. Domestic violence doesn't happen only with an intimate partner. It can happen from an ex-partner or a family member. It doesn't have to be to be in a relationship. And I was reading and doing my research, and some of the things perpetrators tell people is, or if you report, who will believe it? Especially those who are younger. They threaten by telling, your friends, or they smear you on social media. That's been really bad. And if you see, actually, I used to when I was waiting for the buses, in different cities, I could see, graffiti of so and so is a slug. And when you trace back, is actually you or a slut or different terminologies. And actually, when I trace back some of them, it's kids in school shaming each other, or a man boyfriend, girlfriend shaming each other because you didn't do what they wanted, in domestic violence. And it breaks my heart that as human beings, we have reached to this level. We have reached a level where you will go to all lengths to make sure someone else is feeling degraded, is suicidal, is on the verge of losing themselves. Yeah. And actually, I was also reading in same-sex couples relationships as well, domestic violence has risen, because especially for those who are the lesbian community, I was reading articles where they say, who will believe a woman? Women are not violent, so if you say that, they won't believe you. There's no support for people in our community. So they hammer this kind of words, and somehow the victim believes them. And the sad part is the government in UK, actually, by the time they caught on to all this, obviously because of all the things that were going on with COVID, and creating safe place for women and men who are being going through this domestic violence. And there was funding actually that was put aside, and laws had to be changed so that those who are in domestic abuse situation could leave the home that they were isolating at, or shielding, or living at quarantine. And a lot of people became homeless in that section, especially I remember March to around June last year, 2020. It was crazy. I saw at least 3 or 4 women in town, the city center, and they had the same story. They went through domestic violence, and it was enough, and they felt, because I'll have to be this person day in, day out, I'd rather leave. And for the kids as well, it was crazy. I was talking to some of my friends who are social workers, and they were telling me they're inundated with a lot of calls from kids facing abuse, and teenagers really. And I wanted to raise awareness and say, okay, if you know someone who's going through this, or if you're the person going through this, your life is valuable, you're worthy, you do not have to go through this. There's a lot of charities, there's a lot of help out there. There's strategies. You don't have to just leave the house. There's proper strategies to help you transition. If you want to live just a day, there's also plans for that. Don't suffer in silence. Do not let the perpetrator win, whether it's your father, it's your mother, your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. Do not let them win, because at the end of the day, you do not deserve what you're getting. No matter how they twist it, no matter how they say it, you do not deserve it. You did not bring it to yourself. No, it's not your character. It's not your personality. No. What they're doing is wrong. What they're doing is criminal. And what they're doing is inhumane. Okay. So, I just wanted to say, for us in the community, have a lookout. Take care of each other. If there's someone you can trust, you can, open up to. If you lack the capacity to help someone who's going through this domestic violence, there's charities and organizations out there that you can help them with. Yeah. And I just hope 2021, the numbers will decrease and people will be safe, especially those who don't speak out. For those people, it looks normal. You never know. And you see, actually, with domestic violence, it doesn't have to just be the violence being beaten up. It could be words, it could be insults, it could be controlling behavior, it could be being coerced to do something. Even you're being forced to have sex, even though you're married. Yeah, if you don't want to, your freedom to actually say no. Yeah, consent is still consent at the end of the day, whether you're married or not. So if you've not consented as well, that is wrong for them to force you. And there's a lot of talk about, is there rape in marriages, and that's a whole topic in itself. But yeah, consent is still required even in marriage. And I just hope you can find help. Please do not suffer in silence. This is the main thing I want to talk about today, and just say, get help. It might feel like because this person is the breadwinner, or sustains you in one way, or you have children together, or it's complicated. Even in the most complicated, there's a way out. It might not seem apparent at the moment, but there's a way out. And if you need to speak to us, our email will be attached to this information. Our social media pages are there. Drop us an email. We'll refer you to the right people. We are here to listen and to help. And on that note, I wish you all a good day. And let us be our brothers' keepers, and our sisters to be gender inclusive. But in the sense, let's look out for each other, and let us not aid and abet, especially aid the perpetrator. No, especially in a home setup. If you're the mom and your husband is being abusive to your children, do not allow it, regardless of how it is, and vice versa. Save the children, save yourself. Take yourself out of this situation. Yeah. Thank you for listening to this episode of Crash Cinnamon, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you.